Okay, today's talk is titled New Approaches to Homelessness on the Central Coast, to be delivered by Austin Solheim. Austin Solheim is a homeless services specialist, a community member, a husband, and a dad. Austin has worked and been involved in homeless services for over 8 years. His experience includes multiple roles and diverse shelter programs, including leading Northern Nevada's strategic plan and oversight of a homeless services campus that provided over 1,000 shelter beds per night. After learning more about ECHO, El Camino Homeless Organization, its unique approach and proven track record of successfully getting individuals housed, Austin was drawn to the Central Coast, where he and his family now make their home. He currently serves as the Donor Relation and Community Engagement Manager for ECHO. Austin, yay! Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's my favorite thing about doing a presentation on a Sunday is I get to say good morning and everyone's response with such a welcoming good morning. It makes it feel a lot easier as a speaker. Thank you all for the opportunity just to come here and to be able to speak today and be able to talk on this subject of homelessness. It is an interesting subject that we are all dealing with in our community and right now in our nation. It is a topic that we talk about quite a lot, but we talk about it in many different forms. So there are two things that I hope to leave you all with today. One is to help and understand this perception of homelessness that we talk about, to really focus that, to be able to give you guys some tools. It's very interesting to come to a church, to come to a community center, and be able to talk on homelessness, knowing that there are so many people in the room that want to make a difference in the world outside. But sometimes what we don't have is the tools to be able to do that. So I want to walk through some myths with you that we tend to run into, some interesting things that come to us that people say, and how some statistics that we can use, some things that are happening in our own community, and different tools that we have to be able to combat some of those myths and questions that we're faced with. And the second thing that I would like to do is to talk to you guys about ECHO, something that is happening in our community, something that is happening here in Cambria as well. A little introduction of myself, thank you so much, but why I am here today, and what gives me the reason to be able to come and talk to you all. I've worked in the homeless services for several years. I've held many different roles. I've worked with many different individuals in different capacities, different shelters, different programs, and more than any of that, why I am here today is because I live here. I live in the Central Coast. I live in this community. I have a wife in this community, a home in this community, and I raise a family in this community. And so this is an important topic to me and a very important topic, I think, to everyone in this room. So thank you for this opportunity to come and speak with you today. So the first thing that I want to show you is an interesting slide. This is what if you go on any internet search, you pull up Google, you get on your phone, and you type in homelessness. These are the very first images that come up. Why are these the very first images that come up? They're painful to see, and because this is the public perception of homelessness. So when you bring up this topic, even if you're talking about someone getting successfully housed, you're talking about a program that's getting people back into housing, you're talking about hope, the image that people pull into their mind is this. The word that people pull into their mind is hopelessness. So when you start that conversation, we're already in a bad place. We're already in this place. As soon as you say, if I come to someone and I'm speaking, and I love the organization ECHO that I work for, but as soon as I tell someone that, oh yeah, I work with those that are facing homelessness, I get this look. Because the only thing that they see in their head is this. They see this every single time. And why do we see this? Why? Because there are these myths around homelessness. And I apologize, that says 5 on this, but we're going to go through 3 of them today. But there are myths that focus around homelessness and questions that constantly come up. And these are questions that I get asked on a regular basis from members of the community, not because they are angry, not because they are mad, because they are afraid. Because they are afraid of the unknown, because that first picture that I've showed you is scary. Because they know that it could be their husband, their wife, their mother, their child, their brother. It could be so many people in their lives, and they're afraid of what that happens to their community. So one of the questions that I get asked on a regular basis is, are they from here? This is a question that I think is very particular to the coast here as well. But even when I was in different parts of the country, even when I was in Reno, Nevada, which if you've ever been to, is not the place you would think that someone homeless would come to. It snows quite a bit there, and then in the summer it's 110. Still, this question came about. They aren't from here. They just like the weather. They're not from our community. These are not individuals from our community. So looking at statistics and looking at studies that are taken from a national point of view, when you talk about those that are facing homelessness in our community, 70 to 80% of all homeless are from where they are being served on a national basis. We got asked this question specifically in Paso Robles. So in 2.5 years ago, about 2020, Echo opened a second location in Paso Robles. And the question came about, if you build it, they will come. That was the fear. So we wanted to answer that question on our own and in our backyard. So we asked those that we were serving who were from SLO County. 85% of the individuals that we serve and continue to serve are from this community. So even when we talk about our own backyard, not talking about the national statistics, because we look outside, the sun is shining, maybe not as much this June, but the sun is shining, the weather is beautiful, and we ask ourselves, are they just coming here for the weather? Even when we look at the statistics locally of those that we serve, including outreach to Morro Bay, Cayucas, and Cambria, 85% of the individuals we serve are from this community and from SLO County. One of the other questions that we get asked, first, I wanted to show you guys as well. So that first picture, every time that we talk about this miss, I want to show you guys pictures of individuals from our community too. So the first picture that you guys see is two individuals that are staying at our Paso Robles campus. These are individuals from our community that fell on hard times. They are working together to be able to find that successful housing piece. This picture was from, these individuals are actually very close to getting housed. They have a few applications they're waiting on, but this picture was from the first time that they went out and got their first job. So these are individuals, this is where they started, right? It's not always that first picture. It's not always that different piece. There are many, many ways and many individuals that fall into that homeless category. The second picture is a mom and her son. Her mom and her son that fell on hard times during the storms that came down in January, that their housing unit became unlivable due to leaks and due to different pieces, and they had forced to sleep in a vehicle. This is a student at Paso Robles High School who just celebrated his graduation this week because he has a stable place to live. This is a high school senior who now has a full ride to UC Santa Cruz. But without that stable place to live and that stable place to be in his own community, would not have been able to successfully continue this journey on his own. Another question, they just need to get a job. We hear this all the time in our community. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Be able to pull yourself out of that. Just get the job, pay the rent, do all those different pieces to be able to make that. But we talk about it. You guys already answered this question through today's amazing service. It's not necessarily just about pulling yourself up the bootstrap. One of the questions that we get asked, or one of the phrases I hear is, oh, they need to climb that mountain on their own. But it's not about climbing that mountain on your own. It's about taking that leap of faith and being able to trust someone else that they will be there to support you. Being able to trust that someone is going to stand by your side, make sure that you have a safe place to stay, and help you take the steps to get out of that situation that you're in as well. one of the photos here, just to change that face of homelessness. This is a wonderful success story from just a few weeks ago of this wonderful baby girl. Her name is Grace, and her mother, Alyssa, who were facing homelessness and about to be on the streets and sleeping in their vehicle. But due to ECHO, they were able to come into our program, have a safe place to stay. Mom was able to finish her degree online and be able to have a place where she felt safe with her daughter as well, and had individuals from every single room wanting to babysit and play with baby Grace the entire time, including staff members who were very sad. The second individual is a story that is one of my favorites. So on my second day at ECHO, I had to call an ambulance. I had to call an ambulance for an individual, that this gentleman standing right here. This individual had a heart problem. He had a problem with his heart and a problem with his lungs, but he was working since day one when he came into our program. He was working at a gas station and trying to do everything he could to get back into housing. He worked himself to exhaustion with a medical condition to the point where he actually had a heart attack. After a 3-month stay in hospital, in ICU, in multiple treatment, he was exited back onto the streets into homelessness. He came back to ECHO and he started working with our team. He got into one of our programs and he is now working a full-time job at a solar company. And he is doing, this is a picture of him coming home from a successful sale that he made. And he again is working back towards that housing in a job that is a better fit for him because he doesn't have to lift and can do all of the things that he needs to do. Taking those steps, making sure that he has a safe place to stay. But it's not just about, when we talk about the national piece of this, the myth, right, that we come back to is that they just need to get a job. But more than 40% of the homeless population has held full-time jobs the entire time that they've been facing this situation. More than 40%. On top of that, could you imagine making it to work every single day when you didn't have a stable place to stay? Could you imagine when you didn't have clean clothes? Imagine not having transportation. Has anyone ever tried to take the bus from SLO to Paso Robles before? Right? So we talk about our community locally. It's not as easy as just being able to get a job. It's making sure that that job is near where you can get to, that you can get to it every day. There are so many pieces, having clothing, having shower, having all those pieces that go into it, that is a step. But the first step may be having that safe place to stay. They are mentally ill, and the majority abuse alcohol and drugs. I hear this question all of the time, and this question kills me. Because when you talk about this, and you talk about the decades of research that have gone into this, that yes, there are individuals that are experiencing mental illness, and there are individuals that are experiencing drug and alcohol abuse as they're going through this. But that number is not 100%. That number is 30%. So are there individuals that are experiencing this? Absolutely, but not every single person is going through this. And again, that access to resources becomes so important, right? We talk about the faces of homelessness and the different pieces. We go back to that first picture. That first picture is not all-encompassing of everyone that is experiencing homelessness. There are so many different faces. And I am not here to tell you that doesn't exist. It exists in all of our communities. But when we talk about homelessness and we talk about the perception of homelessness, we need to talk about everyone in our community that is experiencing that and going through that. Because it's not just those individuals. It's families that are going through this. It's someone's son that's going through this. It's someone's brother, someone's uncle, someone's dad that is facing this in our community. It is a family that is living paycheck to paycheck. It is a senior that is on a fixed income that had their rent increased. It is all of these pieces that come into it that encompass all of homelessness. And I do not say this to make you feel hopeless. I promise that there is hope in our community. There is hope here on the Central Coast. But when we talk about homelessness, we need to talk about the entire face of homelessness. And we need to change that picture in our mind of just that individual, the shopping cart, the different pieces. And we need to have these conversations in our community to help everyone see that it is not just that individual, but it is members of our community. It is families, it is brothers, it is sisters, it is parents, it is all of that. So what is Echo? So I've talked to you, I don't mean to drag, I don't mean to make everyone feel hopeless, but I love enjoying those questions. Those questions I get asked on an everyday basis. But what is Echo and why is the approach different? So I want to give you a little history, and I know some of the individuals in here are very familiar with our program. But Echo was a program that was founded in 2001, a nonprofit that was created by a group of caring community members who came through with one purpose: to serve a meal. So they went from church to church, they went from community center to community center, they went from kitchen to kitchen to create a meal for those that were facing homelessness in their community. As they grew and as they learned a little bit more, they decided to get this crazy idea to buy some cots and create in the North County the first overnight warming shelter. They would go from church to church still, staying at one church for a month, moving from one church to a month, only run by volunteers in the community. No paid staff members whatsoever. Eventually, that led to them buying a building and creating a true overnight shelter. Now, when you talk about a homeless shelter and we talk about that perception, right, you think of individuals coming in, having a place to stay for the night, and then having to leave the next day. And originally, when Echo was founded and the first building was built, that's what Echo did. Echo got people off the streets for the night safely, but unfortunately, when the morning came and the volunteers had to go home, all of the individuals had to leave as well. And when you talk about a traditional shelter in our nation, that is the model. That is what people thought was the successful model. That's what people thought individuals needed. They just needed that safe place to stay. But in about 2016, Echo decided to make a change in their programming to offer a little bit more stability. What that program is called the 90-day program. So now, Echo, growing even since 2016 when that 90-day program was founded, into two campuses, one in Paso Robles, one in Atascadero, with outreach case managers that go out into the community and work with individuals as well. But they flourish on this 90-day program. And I will tell you, the 90-day program is a terrible name because individuals can actually stay for longer than 90 days. But what that program offers is that 90 days of concrete stability for anyone in our community that is facing homelessness. That means that someone gets to come in and they get to have a bed for that stability for that 90 days. We have seen so much success from that program. They've gotten individualized case management. They're meeting with the same person on a regular basis. And the very first thing when they come in and they meet with a case manager or a case manager comes to them, is they work on a housing goal. They work on what that next step is. It doesn't mean that that housing goal can't change, but the entire purpose of coming in and using that program is to get back into housing. And it's a low barrier program that works with any individuals in our community that are facing homelessness. Still today, almost all of our services are run by volunteers. So we have between our two campuses about 20 staff members, but on a monthly basis, we fill over 500 volunteer positions. If we talk about the volunteer community and how many members of the community come in, if we were to pay all of our volunteers just for the hours that we have on site, not the cooking that happens off site, not the things that individuals do, it would make up over $1 million of Echo's budget. It is incredible, the members of the community. But how do we support this? So how do we support the individuals that are staying? Because we do more than just provide that 90 days of stability. We include classes, resources, different pieces, everything from financial literacy to parenting classes, to wellness, to sound therapy, to all of these different tools that individuals can use, music, gardening, workforce development. All of these pieces tie into helping someone get back into housing and finding those different pieces too. Beyond what we do as well, we also have small touch points too. So still true to what Echo did in 2001, we serve a nightly meal every single night. And every single night we serve over 300 individuals from our community a meal that is completely provided by volunteers from the community as well. So these are just pictures of different pieces that I like to share, that these are just members of the community. These are members of the community that took the effort and took the step to come in and take their time to volunteer with Echo. So when I sit up here and I'm wearing a name badge and I talk to someone that may be facing homelessness, one of the questions that I get from them is, well, that's great. You say all this, but you're getting paid to be here. You're wearing a name badge. You're here because, you wear that name badge. But when members of our community come in and they say, hey, I'm glad you're here. I know that you can do this. And I know that this is where you're supposed to be. That speaks more volumes than anything that I can ever say, than anything that I can ever do. Because those are members from the community that truly care. And these are members that we're serving from our community as well. There are so many opportunities to come and volunteer at Echo. And I can sit up here and talk to you about every single one of them. But if you were truly interested in coming and seeing what hope looks like, then I would ask you to come check out our website, echoshelter.org, and come and see it for yourself. Come volunteer. Come get involved. But don't be afraid to have those conversations with those that are facing homelessness. Don't be afraid to see them as someone of our community and ask them if they need help. Ask them if they know about Echo. Ask them if they know about our services. We have outreach case managers that come out to Cambria specifically on a weekly basis, that come out here to work with those that are facing homelessness here in our community to help them to access the resources to get back into housing. There are lots of information on our website. I will tell you, I am happy to answer any questions. I know that this is an interesting topic. And so if there are any questions from anyone in our community, please don't hesitate to give me a call, to come take a tour, to come see it for yourself. And if you'd like more information, I'll stay after as well to answer any questions. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to come and speak today.
Very good. Steve, we have time right now for questions. If anybody would like to ask a question.
Yes.
When your clients are in the 90-day program, are they able to use that address when they apply for jobs? Is that a permanent address that they can use?
They are, yeah. So it's so important and crucial, not just for jobs, but even for getting an ID and a birth certificate. Without that social, you're not able to do that. In fact, one of my favorite stories is I was working with an individual and I helped him fill out the application. And on his housing plan, he put, I would like a beach house in Hawaii with 2 lawn chairs and a bucket of Coronas in the middle. And I loved it. I loved it. Here was a goal. He's like, you asked me what my dream was. Here is my dream. This individual had been in the community facing homelessness for over 20 years. And for the past 20 years had no mailing address, no birth certificate, no ID. After working with us and having a mailing address and applying for that, he actually found out that he had a large inheritance. Now, not enough for the beach house in Hawaii, but this is an individual that now is a homeowner in Bakersfield. And he, on a regular basis, every month, comes back to Echo and has dinner with us at that nightly meal program. Now, I don't share that story online because I don't want everybody come in and thinking they're going to get an inheritance if they come to Echo, but it's so important and crucial to have that mailing address for so many reasons. Yes?
We know a lot of the blocks to success for many adults is literacy. Are you connected with any literacy programs? What do you offer for that?
So we do. We tap into a lot of the available schools. So luckily, there is enough in the education program for those that are interested in taking those steps to have access to that. It is not something that by any means that we don't require any programming. But for those that are looking for those resources, every single person has an individualized case management plan, and they tap into those resources. We, not just that alone, but we really like those resources that are offered by outside community agencies as well, because not only does it help that person while they're staying, but it helps them beyond as well. So depending on the individual experiencing that, we can definitely offer that. A lot of times that comes into a workforce development component as well. So we even have like a full commercial kitchen in Atascadero at our campus there. And so every individual that's staying in the 90-day program is responsible for a chore. Every single chore correlates to a skill that can be put on their resume as well.
One more question, anybody?
Okay. So if we did want to volunteer, but we are
too lazy to drive over the hill. Is there a way to contact the coordinator for Cambria and say we'd like to volunteer for Echo in our own community?
Absolutely.
We just call and then say.
So I will tell you that we don't have anything now, but we would love to. So let's start that conversation. As an organization, we started as a group just like this, in a big circle, talking in a garage, right? That was how Echo began, with a conversation of, hey, I want to help, but I don't know what to do. So let's start. Let's have that conversation. Let's figure out how individuals can volunteer here and volunteer with Echo. And we would love to start that. Yeah? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Austin.